Companionship channels, or sometimes you're going to see these referred to as friendship channels, represent an aspect of both people that is fundamentally the same. Both individuals share the same definition, and thus it can represent the potential of stability in terms of a relationship, because every relationship's made up of a mix of electromagnetics, compromise, dominance, and where you see an aspect of sameness, that is certainly something that can become an anchor in the storm. But if you look through all of the connectivity charts in your genetic matrix hub, you will be very, very lucky to find any companionship channels in terms of the connections that you have. And if you do find a companionship channel, usually it's just going to be one. The most I've ever seen is 3. Occasionally you get 2. So this is quite a rare phenomenon, because the genes actually don't like companionship. They hate sameness. In fact, your genes are doing everything to move you away from sameness, because it makes no genetic sense to be attracted to anything that's the same as you. And this is why you will rarely find a companionship channel in any of your connections. You could go to a party, you could go to a gathering of people, and anybody that you meet that has a similar design to you in any way is going to be of no interest to you whatsoever. The genes are gearing us towards attraction. That's what all of these receptors are for. Attraction to difference leads to the strengthening of the gene pool. But nonetheless, like likes like, and companionship in a relationship does represent something that you have deeply in common with the other person. The same wiring, in other words. This is what creates that safe place in a storm for the two individuals in the relationship. It's the possibility of feeling secure, not being surprised by things suddenly popping up out of nowhere. So it's certainly something valuable to have in a connection. But equally, the other side of companionship is that in terms of union, it can become somewhat boring. Doesn't matter how stable that companionship is, it's not very stimulating. So if you do find yourself in a connection where there is some strong companionship wiring, gates in a definition count towards that as well, then you're in a relationship that is not going to be incredibly stimulating. But that is not what companionship is for anyway. But nonetheless, having a single companionship channel does bring a certain amount of power when it's mixed with everything else in terms of a connection. Here, this companionship in the 2644, the channel of surrender. This is something these two can be quite comfortable with. It can represent a gift for working with people. It's an instinct to know how to present anything to anyone in such a way that you and your message are recognized. So as a partnership, they can have an agreement on the message that is being put out to be recognized as a projected channel. This is also the creative channel of the tribal energy family, and it's projecting out a kind of mutual recognition. So these two can recognize together, in the tribal sense of the word, what's creative, what can be valuable. Creativity in terms of the tribe is of no value whatsoever unless it has some monetary or resource value. It's not individuality where one mutates for the sake of mutating without thinking necessarily about the impact that's going to bring. So these two as a companionship can recognize what can be transmitted, can also recognize who can transmit. These two can recognize what transmissions work. They have the gift of not only being recognized for this ability together, but to also be recognized for their ability to recognize what's valuable. So this becomes the foundation of stability in terms of this union. So have a good look at the companionship channels, if you have any in your connection, and see it as a kind of balance to all of these other more volatile aspects that undoubtedly are part of any connection that you are in if you haven't entered that connection correctly through your strategy and inner authority.